A big thank you to Jero for sponsoring today's video on Patreon. Zimone and Dina versus Jin-Gitaxias, Imara and Corona. A one-lander, which is a shame. If we get into another land, we're looking pretty good there, but yeah, there's no guarantee. Okay, a two-lander with Lotus Cobra. Hopefully we draw into another land so that we can use the fetch with Lotus Cobra to generate more mana. We'll keep this one. Wayfarer's Bauble for Jin. And there we get into another fetch, so I'm fine playing that and cracking it for a tap land here. And now a Hagra Mauling as well. Hopefully we can keep making land drops. Let's try to land the Lotus Cobra. Imara, Soul of the Accord coming into play, and Wayfarer's Bauble being cracked. Alright, and the blue player holding up mana during our turns as usual. What I was hoping to do here is go for Seedborn Muse, which we will be able to do thanks to the fetch. And then we could hold up the mana for Harrow, but I'm not going to do it into open blue mana. So let's go for the Flooded Strand. Make a blue mana with that, with the Lotus Cobra, because we're going to go for our commander instead. Then we can hold up this Fierce Guardianship that we've just drawn into. And priority is being held by the mono blue player as well. I am going to hold back this Lotus Cobra because, frankly, I don't want anyone to remove it. And for a second time, the Corona not doing anything. Need to get myself some of these lands though. Rishkar Pima Renegade for the Imara player, and in response the blue player goes for Fairy Mastermind. So that should go pretty well against our commander. Mana Crypt for the blue player. And we see our opponent's commander, Jin-Gitaxias, hit play. Okay, and the blue player tapping out, which is good. That means we can actually F6 through the turns here. Noteworthy that Imara didn't tap down as part of attacking there, so it might be that there's a single green, either Worldly Tutor or the Tamiyo protection spell, something like that. Alright, a Yavimaya for us. I was going to play the Hagra Mauling, but don't think we necessarily need to now. Play the Yavimaya, make a green mana, then we can crack the Flooded Strand as well. Go for the Underground Sea now that we have the Yavimaya. Everything is going to tap for green mana, so that's a Sultai land. So now if we go for the Harrow, we'll get 2 more untapped lands in, which is 2 more mana. 2 mana spare after the Seedborn Muse doesn't necessarily help us. We could go for Masked Vandal onto the Mana Crypt though. Yeah, so let's just do it now. Get a Swamp and an Island, which will each tap for green as well, of course. So then it is, yeah, green and green. Oh, actually, Masked Vandal, I've got it in my head that it can exile anything. It's just a creature. Alright, so glad I didn't do that. We'll make it the Seedborn Muse then. Could go for the Masked Vandal anyway, just for the sake of drawing a card. But it's probably a more intelligent idea for us to just play through the next turn. So let's go for Lotus Cobra there. We'll actually start trying to deal some damage. Oh, should have swung in with the Zimone actually, if we're going to be untapping with the Seedborn Muse. Okay, that's annoying. The 5 colour player decided to scoop, so struggling on mana apparently. Apologies if you're seeing this game, it's the best of a bad bunch. Our opponent didn't tap down the Imara there either to make a token at the end of the turn, probably was shocked by the fact that they just scooped so quickly. Alright, Mentor of the Meek will be able to be paid for by the Imara, and that will enable the Mentor of the Meek as well. So tapping down Imara straight away will create a token. They float some green mana, which of course triggers Mentor of the Meek when the token enters, and they've got the green mana to pay for that. And then that means our opponent draws a card with the Fairy Mastermind. Wow, really? Jesus Christ. Right, so I don't know what went wrong for our opponent there, to be honest, but we're about to untap our mana anyway. So let's go for Hagra Mauling onto the Jin-Gitaxias, see if we can get this opponent to scoop as well. Ah, crap, forgot that it had Ward 2. So I'll just scoop straight away here, shall I? We'll take the hit. Wasted the Hagra Mauling there, annoyingly. We'll just play this out as a 1v1 because it's interesting against the Jin-Gitaxias. This is another new commander that I haven't really looked at all, to be honest, so I'm not sure what our opponent would do with this. So exiling the Jin-Gitaxias, they are going to draw cards equal to the number of cards in their hand, which is 7. Nothing we can do about this, so we'll allow it. Haven't made a land yet, so they'll be hoping for a Reliquary Tower, I imagine, but just get down an island. Could have a Thought Vessel or something like that. Okay, there is a propaganda. Not entirely sure if we care about propaganda, especially with Mass Vandal available to us. Okay, an Amulet of Vigour isn't all that useful to us at the moment, so let's go for the Chasm Skulker. Might as well play the Amulet of Vigour, I suppose. Or do we want to swing in? We'll swing in with our commander. I think our opponent stands to do more than we do here. We don't have our engine switched on with Zimone and Dina, and we don't look like we're getting to it anytime soon either. Got everything we need here pretty much, apart from the ability to actually do stuff with the Zimone and Dina. So return all non-Phyrexian creatures to their owner's hands. I think I'm going to... I'm going to sacrifice the Lotus Cobra here. Yeah, if we've managed to blow up the... if this didn't have Ward 2, we wouldn't have to deal with this, but yeah, totally forgot about that. We get into a Royal Elemental, which doesn't really help us. We're struggling on mana. Plus counter goes on the Chasm Skulker, but it doesn't matter. That triggers when it dies. It gets the squid tokens, so... Then we see a High Tide from our opponent. We'll just let them do whatever here, because it'll be interesting to see what a Jin-Gitaxias deck can do. And then we see I'll hammer its Archive with a bunch of double mana for the turn. 11 cards in hand. Hopefully they'll tap out into a big Draw X spell, because we do have the Fierce Guardianship for that. Alright, a Lightning Greaves. And there is the Fairy Mastermind. Can't do anything about that. Our opponent taps out with 9 cards in hand, and Lightning Greaves goes on to the Fairy. Alright, there's a 3 visits, so we'll play the 3 visits. That can be a Bayou. And yeah, just really struggling on the mana, unfortunately. Amulet of Vigour, I'm going to have to go for Mass Vandal, which is the reason, half the reason, that I sacrificed the Lotus Cobra before, so that we've actually got something to exile with this thing. And then we can go for the Great Synthesis. So now they're going to have to recast their commander. And we are still stuck in the setup phase. So Jin-Gitaxias into play again. They're likely going to flip it round again next turn. Could maybe play the Royal Elemental and gain control of it. Force them to have counter magic, which I have no doubt they've got in their hand. They should move the Lightning Greaves over there, of course, but maybe they won't. Some players do forget sometimes, myself included. Nope, they do decide to take it. Okay, and there's a Ravenous Chupacabra. Maybe should have countered the Lightning Greaves, because we could have dealt with the Jin-Gitaxias here. So let's go for Zimone and Dina again. And then the Chasm Skulker. And we're holding up the Fierce Guardianship. It's just a case of waiting for the inevitable to happen, I think. When they flip over the Jin-Gitaxias, they are going to draw 16 cards, thanks to the Hammer Archive, assuming that they don't play anything out. Alright, they did drop an island. And going for something else instead of activating the Jin, maybe? Okay, Caged Sun. And they draw a card to that, thanks to Jin's static ability. And now they've got the double mana, so they can activate the Jin, not even swinging in first. And like I said, they'll draw 16 cards here and have no max hand size. So up to 24 they go. Greaves on the Fairy. And there's a Flux Channeler, which is not what we want to see. That will proliferate them to the point where they can cast a bunch of stuff for free. So there's a Ponder, and they get to bounce everything back into their hand. I mean, it does give us a Masked Vandal back, but we don't have anything to do with it at the moment. I'm thinking twice about the Masked Vandal in this deck, to be honest. Oh, actually, this is a Phyrexian, so we are going to keep it in play. Okay, managing to make another land, so... yeah, there's no creatures to steal with the Royal Elemental or anything, so I think we're just starting again with Zimone and Dina and the Chasm Skulker. Like I've said a few times, we're literally just waiting for our opponent to win the game here. So now they get the third counter on the Saga. Jin-Gitaxias will come back into play and they can do a bunch of stuff for free. So there we see, probably win this turn if they're playing the Jace Wielder of Mysteries. Flux Channeler coming back into play. Primal Amulet, Psychosis Crawler, Arcane Signet, Jin-Gitaxias Progress Tyrant to make doubly sure we can't do anything. Baral to make sure we can't do anything. Mind Sculptor, Nezahal, the Mirror, Arcanis, a Consecrated Sphinx, and there's a Tekuthal as well for some proliferate stuff. So they're leaving 14 cards in hand. Just to see how they might be able to deal with it, assuming that they don't have counter magic, which they most likely do. Why don't we try and counter this Wielder of Mysteries? Okay, we do manage to counter that. And now with 13 cards in hand after the Reliquary Tower, they'll be able to flip this round again, potentially. A Khan's Temporal Sundering, going to bounce our commander back. They draw a card to the Jin, proliferate again with the Flux Channeler, and they do get a copy of that thanks to the Progress Tyrant, so bouncing 2 things, 2 extra turns. So if they can't win from here, then I won't be very impressed. This already has 3 counters on it, it needs 4 in order to transform into the copying land Primal Wellspring. That is a Brainstorm with the Mind Sculptor, so they draw 6 cards to that and put 1 back on top. Thanks to the Alhamret's Archive, we'll get damage for 6 from the Psychosis Crawler as well. I bet they can definitely win this turn. Not sure what happened with their Nezahal there. Oh, I think they discarded 3 cards and exiled it. So getting rid of some islands. Then we see a Jace's Sanctum. Yeah, like I said, surprised that they're not flipping this round. They could be cycling through the chapters here. They drew 2 cards to their commander with the Jace's Sanctum. Primal Amulet now with 5 counters, so they can transform it. Lightning Greaves onto the Arcanis will draw 6 cards, so landing 6 damage on us. 40 cards left in the deck. It is more of an interesting win than Jace Wielder of Mysteries though. So I'm liking that it's something a little bit different. Bit of mono blue draw pain here. There's that Fairy Mastermind. And a Sol Ring will proliferate again, so they definitely could have had all their cards in hand drawn. Oh, I suppose they've got to worry about decking themselves, haven't they? Yeah, I didn't think of that. They've got 20 cards in hand. I thought they had a lot less than that at this point. Yeah, because if they flip this thing around and ended up drawing cards equal to the number of cards in their hand, they'd actually deck themselves, so yeah, intelligent plays by our opponent. Got the Limit Break available on Jace in a matter of 3 loyalty. Fairy Mastermind being activated has us draw a card, which means we have the Consecrated Sphinx draw 2 cards, which will be 4 of course. They drew 2 because of their Alhamret's Archive. So all of this going into the Psychosis Crawler, they just drew into a Wood Elves. And then activating the Fairy Mastermind again, draws us into Farseek. So with that we are down to 4, they've got a couple of mana left, and Brainstorm will do it. That's exactly what they did with the Jace, so they're going to draw 6 cards to that. And it's noteworthy that in a multiplayer setting the Psychosis Crawler does do the damage to each player, or each opponent I should say. It's not damage, it's a loss of life, so you can't put lifelink on it or anything, but yeah, you would be taking out all of your opponents in a turn like this. So if they didn't scoot before, they would have done here. So there we see the final Psychosis Crawler triggers, and down we go to 0. So let's have a look at what we were drawing into just out of curiosity. There is a land, so yeah, I mean we weren't doing much of anything. We couldn't keep a board in play that game. Royal Elemental and steal something with a land is pretty much the flashiest play we could have made. But like I said, played it out because it was cool to see the Jin-Gitaxias. I'm actually inspired to maybe play this in 1v1. Not particularly hopeful that we'll get full games of multiplayer in with this deck because it's quite solitary when you go off there, as we saw. But might be able to get something going in 1v1 with that deck. You can let me know if you want to see that. Anyway, hopefully you all enjoyed it. If you want to see me attempt Zimone and Dina again, then let me know. I'm tribalkai. Thank you for watching.